Eric exhaled and prepared to walk into the gymnasium, where he could hear the crowd waiting. He was psyched for the basketball game and reminded himself that it didn't matter who was in the stands. The sea of proud parents eagerly cheered as the team arrived. But Eric had stopped scanning the crowd years ago. He had learned by now not to get his hopes up. But just as he was about to lean into the huddle, he heard his name being called. He almost didn't look up, but then he heard it again. He couldn't believe it when he saw her. She came. She came to see him play. He had never been more motivated to play his heart out. After the game, Eric recounted that he'd grown so used to performing in school concerts and playing sports without ever having anyone to come watch him, that he was blown away that Yvonne, his volunteer mentor, had come to cheer him on. Every kid deserves to have someone show up for them. But for kids in foster care like Eric, it becomes commonplace to wonder if anyone is in their corner. There are approximately 400,000 young people in foster care in the United States. Through no fault of their own, young people are removed from their families of origin, often without warning, and placed into the foster care system. Compounding the experience of being removed from home, life in foster care is punctuated by frequent moves from one placement to another. The longer kids are in foster care, the more often they are moved, and the higher the likelihood of negative outcomes. As a result of the many challenges that come from unstable housing, disruptions in education, and a lack of strong relationships with adults, the PTSD rate for youth in foster care is double that of combat veterans. When asked how many times they've been moved, most teens in foster care have long lost count. With each move, youth are forced to navigate different caregivers in different towns, with different schools, different teachers, and different peers. Youth of color and LGBTQ youth are disproportionately represented in the child welfare system and rarely have access to culturally responsive supports. Many foster youth describe a rootless existence, populated by a series of strangers who are paid to provide for their needs, but they lack warm and lasting personal relationships. I remember the story of a 17-year-old woman who was in foster care and eagerly showed up for her first day at a new job. They put some HR paperwork in front of her and asked her to complete it. And she realized one of the forms asked her for an emergency contact. "What's this?" she asked. "Well," said her boss, "it's, who we should call if you're in an emergency." After pausing for a moment, presumably to take a mental inventory of her people, she wrote 911. No one should ever have to wonder if they have someone to call in a time of need. And yet for young people in foster care, this is a well-founded and familiar fear, one that has serious consequences to their health and well-being. This is why CPR is essential for youth in foster care. Consistent, positive relationships are a lifeline. Research has repeatedly shown that kids need long-term relationships for healthy development. Consistent, positive relationships lay the foundation for emotional well-being, self-efficacy, and resiliency. According to Harvard University's Center for the Developing Child, the single most common factor for children who develop resilience is the presence of a relationship with a stable and supportive adult. This is where silver lining mentoring comes in. We pair one deeply committed, carefully vetted and trained volunteer mentor with one young person in foster care. With just 8 hours a month, that volunteer mentor becomes the critical CPR provider for that young person. Our mentors are often the only adults in our young people's lives who are not paid to be there. Our mentors play a unique role for our young people in many ways, and because they get to know them so deeply, they become champions and advocates for them. Jason, one of our young adults, knows this firsthand. He was matched with his mentor, Abby, when he was 19. And one of the first things that Abby noticed was that Jason loves learning. In fact, he taught himself how to play piano, how to DJ, and how to fix cars, all from watching YouTube videos. Which is why Abby cringed when she heard Jason refer to himself as lazy and a failure. She was surprised to learn that he hadn't completed high school. During the pandemic, Abby made it her business to learn something new alongside Jason. She decided to learn how to fix cars. Together, they watched numerous online tutorials, and she noticed that Jason could digest complex information from the videos, but when it came time to read the instructions, he would ask her to do the reading parts. She suspected that something else was going on. By paying the kind of attention she did and earning his trust, Abby was able to notice what no one else had before. Jason had dyslexia, the symptoms of which, his volunteer mentor found out, are not actually all that difficult to recognize. It just takes someone paying attention, reading with a young person one-on-one. As a kid growing up in foster care, Jason had spent 19 years with dozens and dozens and dozens of professional eyes on him in schools and residential institutions. No one had noticed. His volunteer mentor, that consistent positive relationship, made noticing possible. And now, Jason learned how to learn. Our organization, Silver Lining Mentoring, gives young people who haven't had the privilege of consistent positive relationships the unique opportunity to be seen and heard and deeply known. The opportunity to heal, to matter, and ultimately to thrive. As our motto says, we thrive when we matter. With more than 20 years of expertise mentoring youth in foster care, we have taken these factors into account. The rootless experience of life in the foster care system, young people's need for consistent positive relationships, and the promise of high-quality, durable mentoring. And we are changing the lives of the young people we serve. We know how to bridge the belonging gap for youth in foster care so that they can flourish, and we've seen significant impact. Silver Lining Mentoring puts young people on a path to stability and self-sufficiency. Compared to the national averages for youth aging out of foster care, our young people are graduating high school and matriculating college at rates higher than the national average. And when it comes to match longevity in the world of mentoring, match length is critical. Our average match length is double that of the national average. We also see our mentors working through important milestones with their mentees, like the college application process. Remember our teen basketball player, Eric? I'll never forget one morning, we picked up Eric for an early morning event, and he got into the car clutching an envelope, insisting that we call his mentor, Yvonne, immediately. After convincing him to wait until after 8 a.m., we allowed him to call her, and Yvonne was thrilled to celebrate Eric's college acceptance. Eric wanted one person to be there with him in that moment, his mentor. As one of our young people said, "You've given me someone I can count on and a future I can look forward to. This organization is my silver lining." That's how we got our name. I'm speaking to you from the TED stage to invite you to join our movement to ensure that youth in foster care in Greater Boston and nationwide can have access to high-quality mentoring relationships. As the late Bill Russell would remind us, there's no such thing as other people's children. So do you have 8 hours a month? Knowing that the average American spends 125 hours a month on our phones? If you could trade 8 hours of phone time for 8 hours of quality time with a young person, I guarantee you that one decision will change both of your lives. Please join us if you agree that every young person, young people like Eric and Jason, should have at least one adult in their corner who's crazy about them. Because everyone can contact 911 in an emergency. But not everyone has an emergency contact. Silver lining mentoring has weathered many storms with our youth. Our young people named us for a reason. Because at the end of every storm, not everyone has one, but everyone deserves a silver lining. Thank you.